welcome to the last podcast on colonial opposition to the crown. This last podcast is titled The Shot Heard Round the World. In the events just following the Boston Tea Party and the Intolerable Acts, the colonists decided to form a Congress known as the First Continental Congress. Now, this first Congress is going to take place in September of 1774. There are basically some primary reasons for this Congress, all of which are listed here under results. Now, the first and major accomplishment of this group was that they decided to boycott British goods. The term boycott means to not purchase or not buy products. In this case, this is an effort to financially hurt Great Britain. The other task that they had at the First Continental Congress was to create a declaration. This is also another name for a petition, which is just an effort to try and tell the king, the parliament, as to their grievances. And in this case, the title of this petition is a Declaration of Rights and Grievances. And in this particular instance, they are declaring their rights as the English Bill of Rights provides them. And they're also declaring their grievances. Now, the grievance is just another reason for what they consider to be wrong and what they feel they've been mistreated as. So, this meeting gets a lot accomplished. Only one colony, Georgia, is not present, and ultimately they decide to meet again in the spring of 1775. Ultimately, however, by the time the spring of 1775 comes, the colonies are already well into a war. And the next segment is going to tell you about this shot heard around the world. From the time in which there was the First Continental Congress and the Declaration of Independence, which is roughly a year and a half, there will be a search going on for the members of the Sons of Liberty. And the Sons of Liberty is a secret organization, and it was headed by two leaders from the Boston area, Sam Adams and John Hancock. And these two men, it has become known to the British that these are the leaders of the group that conducted the Boston Tea Party. As a result, the British are going to dispatch their British General, Thomas Gage, in Boston to bring these two to justice. The Sons of Liberty organization, as a result of knowledge getting out that these were their leaders, have decided, if we look on this map, to hide them in this town of Lexington. And they also have decided that they would begin to prepare for a conflict. In preparation for a possible conflict, the Minutemen, or militia, were formed. These were non-professional soldiers, and they were to be ready at a minute's notice for any type of attack or anything from England. These Minutemen had gathered together supplies, and their supplies were being stored and housed here in the town of Concord. Concord is just beyond Lexington, as seen on the map, which is just outside of the Boston area. While the British had become aware of who the leaders of the Sons of Liberty themselves had become aware of when the British would go after and try to arrest these two leaders and gain control of the weapons stored at Concord. It was known that this would occur on the evening or day of April 19th. Therefore, the Sons of Liberty created a rather intricate plan. Their plan was to warn the countryside of the British coming, and this would be done by two men, and those two men would be Paul Revere and, as seen down here, William Dawes. Paul Revere, probably the most famous. William Dawes, however, had just as big of a part. These two men would warn the countryside that the British are coming. What was not known was the route that they would take, whether they would, as seen on the map, whether they would go by land to these towns or whether they would cross the water and then go by land. Ultimately, what happened is they did go by water and then by land. And what transpired at Lexington on the 19th was a standoff. And we do not know who shot the first shot, but the standoff ended badly for the American colonists, as they lost, as we see here, 8 colonists. The rest decided to flee and flee back to, as we see here on the map, to Concord for the next day. At Concord the following day, the colonists did an admirable job of defending that town. As seen here, the Old North Bridge, located here, is where they defended, and pretty much from behind trees and rocks, they managed to take pretty high casualties of the British. And on that day, some 70 or so were killed, and another 170 or so were wounded, and the British are forced to retreat back to Boston. Ultimately, then the shot heard around the world, which began at Lexington and basically was finished at Concord, began the American Revolutionary War.